Yes, people, right now we're on The Observer. So we're taking a look at this article around the Green Party and Polanski's rise. So let's see what's going on here. So it says here Green Party surging as Polanski's social media strategy woos the young. Now, it was recently announced that 16-year-olds will now be able to vote in the future upcoming general election in the UK. So that's the first time that's happened. Normally, you have to be 18 years or above to be able to vote. Now, with the fact that younger people will be able to vote, that is very interesting. So we've seen that recent polls are showing that Gen Z or younger people, so we did do a video about that earlier on. You can check out that video on the channel. But Gen Z, young people, in terms of polling, were shown to be most likely to vote for the Green Party. Now, that's very interesting to see as younger people might be more hip, more cosmopolitan, you know, they are more kind of into what the Green Party is standing for. So we have seen a rise in the number of young people looking to potentially vote for the Green Party. Now, the membership has been driven by social media a lot. So Zack Polanski basically has understood that social media plays a very important role in terms of connecting with, your prime demographic, and the Greens were, doing really well with people under 50, whereas people over 50, the ones who are more kind of like older generation in the UK, like the boomers and so on, they're much more likely to be reform or conservative type voters, whereas younger people under 50 are much more likely to vote for the Green Party, and those under, 30 even more. So what's happened? How has it happened? Well, Zach Polanski's pretty much in the last couple of months become the leader of the Green Party, and he's just put himself out there. Really, he's made videos. He's been on TikTok. He's been on Instagram. Other kind of platforms like social medias, YouTube, and so on. And by utilizing social media, he's managed to pick up a lot of following. So we saw this similar kind of technique being used by Nigel Farage, for example, previously, who's picked up hundreds of thousands of views, especially on platforms like TikTok, where it's more of a younger generation. And then Zach Polanski's pretty much done something similar, and he's come up with a good strategy. He's done dozens and dozens and dozens of interviews, and he even released his own podcast, which is pretty much become very popular very quickly. So Zach Polanski became leader of the Green Party in September. One of his first moves was to launch a podcast. His message was clear: the Greens are going to succeed where Labour hasn't, and use social media to challenge Reform UK. To be honest with you, that's what he said, and that's what he did. And I think that's what people like, a straightforward, straight talking politician. Whereas we know a lot of the time politicians say one thing, they come into power and do something totally different. Nigel Farage has more TikTok followers than the rest of the MPs put together. If that's not a sign that this Labour government does not have a grip on media strategy, I don't know what is, said Polanski. Now, if one individual, one member of parliament in the UK, has more followers than basically the whole of the Labour government in terms of MPs on following on one platform like TikTok, it goes to show, doesn't it, that he's doing something right when it comes to amplifying his message and communicating what he stands for. And he's done that really well. Doesn't matter what kind of side you're on, left or right. Nigel Farage has done really well when it comes to comms, communication. Some have even dubbed it, you know, politics of grievance and so on. But whatever he's been saying, it has been getting traction. Now, a couple of months after Polanski's been voted in, it says here that the strategy appears to be reaping rewards. So we saw that the Greens polling is around about 17%, 16, 17% on different polls. Um, just 1 point behind the government. Another poll, it was actually level, or it was actually higher than the government when it comes to Gen Z voters. But the membership has definitely doubled. I mean, it's gone from 60, 70K all the way to 150,000 members in just 2 months. Originally, they had said that the Green Party were looking to get similar kind of numbers by 2030, but they've managed to cross the 150,000 membership mark within a very short, period of time, and that is unique. It's quite remarkable, And to be honest, it's quite exciting in politics as well, because normally politics is boring and it's pretty much stale, basic, you know, basic stuff that just people are not really interested in, or they are interested in it, but it's not being communicated in the right way. But what we've seen with Zack Polanski, he's talking about cost of living crisis, energy bills. He's talking about the economy. He's talking about employment, young people, and so on. And these are the things that other parties who are focusing on more on culture wars are not really talking about, or they're just talking about immigration all the time. People are a bit fed up of just hearing the immigration debate and constant scapegoating of immigrants. We've seen that on recent kind of news type shows on TV when people asking questions to the panel in an audience. So for some people, it's a breath of fresh air to hear something different. Actually, things that are directly affecting them. So it says here as example, Alex, 34, from Bury, joined the Greens last year. He says he's only been spurred to become active since Polanski joined. So again, Polanski is. I think I'm going to be the one who's going to make a new term here, the Polanski effect. So with Zack Polanski's rise and then eventual leadership challenge and becoming the leader, the effect that he's having on people, it's like this guy here, Alex, is saying, yeah, because of Polanski, he's seen something. Basically, as Polanski dubs it, the politics of hope. And, people are seeing this, a different kind of politics now that we're seeing. It's exciting, it's vibrant, it's energetic. He's very energetic, Polanski. He probably does 10 interviews a day and podcasts and news articles and all sorts of stuff, and he's pushing his party with that kind of energy. He's doing really well. And you can see the Polanski effect is having an effect on people in the country. So it says here, his social media is a huge part of why me and many others have joined and are getting more involved. Again, social media has been crucial when it comes to hearing the message of the Green Party, an alternative message to the status quo of what we've been seeing amongst the other parties. Now, the party's accounts are now full of clips on Polanski's podcast. Well, he has, recorded some podcasts now. He did one recent one with Hassan Piker, who's an influencer from America. So he's not just, looking at local people. His audience, as well as his, guests on his podcast, are very diverse. And basically, he's doing variety of different bits and bobs on camera, vox pops, biting points, stuff like that, public stuff and snippets from TV appearances. So all of this is getting mishmashed onto social media in an effective way, which is creating videos, films, and content, which is quite attractive to the audience. So in one video, it says here, on the White Cliffs of Dover, the south of the country, it's overlaid with a cinematic soundtrack for maximum emotional effect, probably. I haven't seen the video myself, but you see here he's talking about NHS crumbling, rents, prices are skyrocketing. So a lot of people will be affected by, rents, especially if they live in the south of England, where rents are, sky high, and they have gone up really high in the last decade or so. So people are paying, in some places, more than 50% of their wage a month to pay for the rent, which is obviously, very expensive and economically difficult to be able to afford. Rivers are full of poo, crap, companies are pumping sewage into the British rivers and, causing damage to local streams, local canals, local rivers, tributaries and so on, affecting wildlife, affecting the environment, and affecting people who might live close by. And all those in power just basically all talk about one thing: BS, boats, boats, boats. That's what he's saying. And like I said, people are maybe getting a bit tired of just hearing the same kind of scapegoaty type content about boats, 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 when we know that, according to Polanski, the billionaires are the ones who are benefiting and reaping and not getting taxed enough. So that's why he's talked about having a wealth tax. A lot of his clips have smashed it and they've had, hundreds of thousands of views and even millions. So Polanski is interesting because he's adapted to certain elements of a populist style, which I've just literally been talking about, says Lorne Sorensen. associate professor of political communication at the University of Leeds. Whereas Farage is heavily around right-wing influences, he's leaning on them, and he's used a sense of outrage to mobilize people. Well, dubbed as the politics of grievance. Polanski's blended that anger, but he's actually gone on the other side. He's done a bit of yin and yang, and he's gone for hope, the politics of hope, which is his big tagline. Now, hope is much more difficult to sell than outrage, but he's finding a way to do it that's connecting with people. And I think maybe it's because of his background. So he did used to be a theatre, involved in theatre and acting. So probably that's why he's had that, good communications training and skills, which has basically been, transformed onto video content. Marcus Kane from the Greens digital comms team says they are trying to offer voters a positive alternative. Again, it's much needed in a society and arena and context where negativity just dominates everything. The party also sees social media as a corrective in terms of when it comes to attention. Reform garners in traditional media. So Reform gets a lot of spotlight, highlight in mainstream media, arguably with only like 4 or 5 MPs, they're getting so much traditional media attention, whereas the Green Party hardly get any. So social media, obviously they control their own social media, and by releasing content, videos, and various snippets of different podcasts and interviews that he's been doing, they've been generating and drumming up their own following. So that's pretty interesting to see. So there's a huge opportunity on the left now, where previously had Your Party, Jeremy Corbyn had over 800,000 people basically sign up for the Your Party platform, while he's running alongside Zara Sultana and the coalition of independent MPs. But there've been a lot of fiasco in between, internal conflict, which is putting people off. Maybe the Green Party have benefited from that, in the sense that people have just given up with Your Party and decided to go with the Greens, because the Greens are providing a left alternative. Obviously, we'll see how that develops, because Your Party's it's not quite dead, because the conference is due and they're still basically looking to build that party up. So we'll see what happens in the coming months in terms of the Your Party. So like I said, we're seeing a lot of development here when it comes to traction on social media. But obviously, views don't equate to political success. So it says here during 2019, Corbyn reached a lot of views, or 1.2 billion views on social media, but he wasn't able to win the election. So what Polanski probably has to do is win council seats, get community organisers out, door knocking, meeting people on the street, street community organising, street communication, using community organising, community development methodologies to meet people, build trust, respect, and relationships. Talk about power dynamics with people within their own homes, on the street, door knocking, in the local, churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, in the, outside schoolyards, different places where they can meet, people, parents, young people, and talk about politics and talk about the Green Party. So it says here, I've been asked how many votes will social media posts get us said. Kane, it's impossible to quantify it. Social media success has to be contributed, has helped contribute to growth in their membership for the Green Party. That's why they've crossed the 150,000 membership mark. And that's obviously going to bring in money. So if each person's paying a certain amount of money, £5, £6, whatever it is, or more, that's hundreds of thousands of pounds potentially that they're generating just through party membership, which they can then use to run their election campaigns and do their common strategies and be able to hire staff and so on. So social media is crucial in getting out there, reaching younger people, Gen Z, and so on. Recent research has also showed from Ipsos that 58% of those aged between 16 and 34 get their news from social media, not rather than traditional media outlets. So a lot of young people, 16 and 34, are on social media, and they are getting news from there. That's why Polanski is present in the platforms where these people are, and that's why it's probably garnering a lot of attention from them. A lot of discussion we've been having is about people who are 13 to 14 now, who might be voting come the general election in 2029. So there you go. So they're even targeting younger people potentially as a medium of getting future voters who will be voting in future general election, especially the one that's coming up in 2029, which will help build the Green Party. Okay, people, please do let us know what you think about that. What do you think about Zack Polanski and the Green Party, their communication strategy, how they've risen so quickly? Drop a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, support the channel by clicking the join button. Okay, people, catch you in the next one.